Was that the online?
Yeah, we're live. So we're live. Welcome to the Noted podcast at Scope. Trying to get the audio set up. We've never done a live podcast in a different place outside our homes. So yeah, we're in South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas, and we have many special guests with us. Does it sound good?
Keep talking.
Okay. So here tonight we're doing we have the Austin Bitcoin Devs meetup run by this guy right here, Justin Moon.
Yeah.
Located at the wonderful Unchained Capital offices. We have Drew.
Hi, everybody.
And Parker.
Hey, guys.
Who work at Unchained, and we're all going to talk about what we're up to and kind of SoftBuy launch-ish type stuff. So first of all, Justin, can you tell us a little bit about the meetup?
Yeah. So I moved here like a little less than a year ago, and was going around with meetups. Of course, they were all multi-coiner, just terrible, uninteresting stuff. So I just started a little meetup. There's going to be folks on Bitcoin and technical stuff where people could share what they know. And so the first couple, I was just giving little lectures about something I've learned the previous week, like how to inspect Bitcoin key packets using Wireshark, just like little things like that. Like 2-3 people came for the first 3 months, and then finally a big group came, and we've been doing it monthly ever since then. So we've had like Andrew Polstra, Jimmy Song. Now we have Drew giving going to be a pretty interesting talk today about security. Brian Bishop's going to show up one of these times. He's attended. He's going to lead. So we have a really strong local community of experts, and there's also a lot of just people you've never heard of in Austin who know quite a lot. So that's kind of the goal is to bring do a little networking, get to meet all these local people, and pull some of the knowledge from the experts that live here. Many of them just recently moved here because Austin's such a good place. Yeah, like a friendly place for the Bitcoiner.
Yes, it's a good place for Bitcoin maximalists.
Yeah, when Justin got to town, we had a meetup, but we pretty much just ate steaks. Yeah, it was really a social.
Oh, you say that is it's
no, it's not bad. It's
a pretty good meetup.
We had a great time, but he showed up, and 2 months later, he set up a developers meetup, and then we beginning of this year started hosting it, so we do it once a month, and he does a great job, and we love having everybody around. So
yeah, well, like you said, we've been a part of I've been in the Austin Bitcoin scene for many years now, almost 6 years, but they did kind of get drifted in the way of shitcoinery further over time. So
a lot of new people showed up too. Like I think the population is a little different. Like Tur is here. Like Jimmy Flaxman.
Yeah.
There's like half the people that show up for the event did not live here.
Yeah, there's been an Austin Bitcoin renaissance, but it's been really fantastic.
I hear we're going to get Pierre back.
I hope so. I mean, that's what he said on the last podcast.
He also said he'd be here at 5 p.m. guys. So.
Yeah, that's true. So he says he's moving this year. We'll see him in 2022. Besides the meetup, we also now have Bitcoin company presence. So we have Unchained Capital. Drew, can you tell us a little bit about what Unchained Capital is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe 30 seconds of history. So we started out, it's a company founded by myself and my co-founder, Joe Kelly, where we've been entrepreneurs in Austin for a long time. And I think for a long time we avoided being Bitcoin entrepreneurs because Bitcoin is crazy, and why would we do that to ourselves? But it was too fascinating. We couldn't stop thinking and talking about it. At some point, you have to kind of admit, if all you do is this one thing, maybe you should just do that out loud and in the open. Yeah. So we started with research because we're nerds. You might have seen some of our hollow waves analyses out there. It's probably one of the loudest things that we put out on the internet so far. We produced that analysis way back in 2016, and it kind of taught us that, maybe unsurprisingly, a lot of people don't use their Bitcoin, quote unquote, for anything. I don't want to get into a political debate about whether hodling is usage or not.
It is.
It is. Okay, fine. But what is they're not spending it. They're not putting it into smart contracts, or they're not doing other things, or they've worked at least for a long time. So it dawned on us that, hey, if Bitcoin is going to really be money, it needs to be able to be treated like money, even when it's not being transacted. It's not really like a currency, let's argue. It's more of a store of value. So it led us to start a lending company, Unchained Capital. We gave our first loans against Bitcoin as a form of collateral way back in 2017. That was great timing. You can imagine the prices were leaning upwards. People were suddenly finding themselves with a whole lot of wealth they didn't have previously, and they didn't have almost any options for what to do with that money other than continue to hodl. Now, fast forward a couple of years, where we've gotten to, I think what we realized is one, a lot of other people are getting into the lending game. But what's really different, and has always been different about us, is maybe it comes from kind of having Bitcoin roots and being hodlers ourselves. We're obsessed with security. When we first started the company, the idea of taking someone's collateral and then losing it was like terrifying. We have one major responsibility: is we got to keep this stuff safe. And so we developed multi-sig storage, cold storage for our internal loan book, way in the beginning before we even started with our first customer. And over time, it became clear that's one of the best things that we built. Is a really, really easy to use engine for multi-sig cold storage, except we were using it internally to protect our customers' funds. Our administrators were using it. We really wanted to open that up so that more and more people could operate at the high level of security that we're used to operating at. And when we saw what was the gap there, it was clear that it's software, it's UI, and it's customer support and education. The tool set's already there. So many people are moving to Trezors and Ledgers that we felt it was realistic to actually bring this product to market. So that's kind of what we're partly here today to do, is later on we'll be giving a little bit of a demo, showing off some of this cool technology. And thank you, by the way, to everybody that's involved in this show and in this space. I think input from you guys has really helped us find this product and finally bring it to market.
Excellent.
Long rant, sorry.
That's what we love hearing. Parker, you're somewhat new to Bitcoin. Reformed Notecoiner.
Never a shitcoiner.
Yeah, very good. That's Nick Carter had a joke about Notecoiners or Bitcoiners. Notecoiners are like Bitcoiners with regards to shitcoins, except they believe in one less, one fewer. But anyway, so you're somewhat new, but you provide really insightful analysis for the people who do know you. Can you tell people a little bit about your background and how you brought that knowledge into Bitcoin and what you're doing with it?
Yeah, sure. So I was working for a hedge fund in Dallas for a long time. Our good friend Will Cole had started to get me interested in Bitcoin. I think he kind of got involved from his brother Napoleon, who's here, as well as you and Pierre. And then through happenstance, Will introduced me to Safe. And then Safe basically red-pilled me on Austrian economics at the same time that I was working at the hedge fund, looking at specifically quantitative easing and the impacts of reversing quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, and what that actual operation was from the Fed's perspective. And so at the same time, Safe was red-pilling me on Austrian economics and kind of connecting with Will and you guys on Bitcoin and understanding more myself about the Fed. Made the decision about a year and a half ago that I wanted to, leave sitting behind a Bloomberg screen and figure out how I could contribute value to the
convert to the church of Bitcoin.
Exactly. How could I, get off zero? And so I did that about a year and a half ago. Moved back to Austin, which is such a great community here in Austin that was focused actually on the development side of Bitcoin. It was right about the time. I don't know if Justin was here yet, but there were a lot of people coming to Austin. I met Drew and Joe about a year ago. I was really focused on how can we get family offices, larger institutions involved, where this type of security setups that would attract them. That's when I learned about their custody layer, their custody solution or technology solution. And I started talking to them about selling that or offering that as a standalone service. We kept the dialogue for about 6 months, and then when they really committed to going out and pursuing that as a core product alongside their loans, they asked me to come on board and help them kind of shape the vision for that product and guide it and then ultimately take it to market. So it's been we've been hard at work for the last 6 months on that. So we'll get to see some of it tonight.
Yeah, and I got to really congratulate Parker. I think it might not be obvious from his rather staid manner, but Parker is a forceful personality. And I think without him joining our team and helping us realize really what was the value that we were holding on to, I don't think we would have gotten this product into the market today. So thanks a lot, Parker.
Absolutely. I'd say it's been an incredible addition to the Austin community. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually curious, you said you're a reformed Notecoiner. What had been holding you back prior to basically safety and question?
Yeah, so that is a good question. I think that, part of it was specifically Safe, and it was actually an interesting story how I came to meet Safe. I was going up to Diligence of Gold Company up in Canada. I was working for the hedge fund I was working for in Dallas, and the company was called BitGold. And on the website, it was talking about blockchain. And so I knew that Will, this was probably 3 years ago, Will was really interested in Bitcoin. So I sent it to him. I said, hey, does this have anything to do with Bitcoin? He was like, has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but I've got a gold guy who you should meet. And that turned out to be Safe. And Safe happened to be in Canada, 2 hours away from my meetings in Toronto. He was like, hey, how about I just drive up there and go to these meetings with you? And so it was through those conversations of really kind of getting through the mental block of why gold was money or what money was, period, at the same time that I was trying to understand Bitcoin. And there were still some mental blocks, but Will had made a comment to me where, I was actually struggling with the fact that it's like, man, if Bitcoin's too expensive, not enough people are going to be able to get it. And it wasn't because I didn't know that Bitcoin was divisible by 8 units, but it was just there was some mental block about that. And Will made a comment like, well, Bitcoin really only has to be worth $10,000 to be interesting at all. And something about that unlocked something like, oh, the more valuable Bitcoin is, the more value it becomes. The easier you can transfer value, the easier it is. The fewer Bitcoin you need to send $1 million worth of value, or the equivalent, then the network is actually more valuable. And so there was something about that, and then Safe just kind of continuing to hammer me on monetary.
Was there ever a period where you were accepting of, like, let's say, the idea of digital gold or sound money, and not accepting of Bitcoin, or vice versa, where you thought Bitcoin was great, but having a fixed money supply was a bad idea?
It was like a 30 or 60 day period. Like, like it was that short. It was that quick. It was like 0 to gold to Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because like a lot of us, at least myself, I was a gold bug, from the Austrian camp for many years before Bitcoin. So all like what held me back was just understanding that Bitcoin is actually scarce, like gold. And as soon as someone explained it as like gold you send through the internet, it suddenly the rest of everything fell through. Now today, I don't think that metaphor is necessarily captures everything, but it certainly helped me. But point is, I've been a gold person for so long, and I was happy to find out about Bitcoin.
I'm the exact opposite. I think when I learned about Bitcoin, like I'm a programmer and physicist, I pretty quickly got like, okay, I see what you have done here. That seems like a really clever trick. Who wants that? No one wants that.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to discover that there's a whole group of people who do want that, and that explains why Bitcoin went from whatever $1 when I heard about it to like hundreds of dollars. And that shocked me.
So then they had it for a long time and lost it too.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
With that, I mean, are you saying like, you didn't really understand gold as money until after you learned about Bitcoin? It was like, now history makes sense.
Yeah, I never asked questions about like what money is actually made of, right? And I accepted like the 8th grade American history story of like Cross of Gold, William Jennings Bryan, whatever and now we have real money, guys, and I just never thought about it. I never really had anybody to think about it. And then when Bitcoin came out, I was like, this is a really cool solution, and who cares? And it took a long time to realize that other people care, and that started me asking questions, not about like how Bitcoin works, I think I got that, but about like, why do these people care about that so much? Why is it so important to them?
And this is such a common story. Last night, some of us were at a Human Rights Foundation event with Alex Gladstein, who's appeared on the podcast. Everyone should go listen to that. And any other podcast he's been on, he's great. But one of the things he was telling me was how, he's been in this space for many years, and even for most of his time working in the Human Rights Foundation, there was no concept. It was like, well, what's this, like, what about the money? There's often, times when people are thinking about like separation of church and state if they believe that, there's certain kinds of religious oppression in a certain nation. They don't think of like, well, what about money in state? And suddenly, like, especially, the last night's specific topic was seeing what's happening in Venezuela, which is getting worse day by day. And that's a stark, illustration of why this does really matter. So unfortunately, many people have to learn the hard way, but there is a reason that we've been so into this for that long, because we want to check ourselves Venezuelan events.
One thing Parker said that's really interesting is how in his early conversations with Will, Will mentioned, it only has to be worth like 10,000 for it to start to be interesting. And I think this shows one of the changes in the people that are interested in Bitcoin. For the longest time, it was like characteristic early adopters. And I think the community almost looks at the early adopters as almost like a virtue. Like being an early adopter is a good thing, period. And in many cases, it's not. Like being an early adopter is a good way to waste your time doing nothing useful ever. And so you're finding this new class of people like Parker, like ourselves, that isn't really interested in something when it's super niche, but becomes interested when it actually has a chance to go mainstream. And so that's kind of what got me interested. Is I saw people in my family kind of interested in these things. And I didn't expect to, and so it's like, okay, this could go mainstream. And I think you're seeing this new class of people that aren't really early adopters. And I think that's great, and they have a lot to add.
The self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think one thing that is easy to forget is that we were talking to Gabby last night at the dinner, and I explained to her that I've been spending 2 or 3 years thinking about this, and it's when you're that far down the rabbit hole, it's easy to forget that Bitcoin is not intuitive, and then once it becomes intuitive, it's really intuitive.
Yeah, to you.
And she made a comment. She was like, "I don't have 2 years to think about this."
Yeah,
which is our problem. It's just an educational process, and it's a slow process. But some people figure out the hard way, and some people have the luxury to be able to spend the time to really dig in and understand.
I mean, that's the unwillingness to spend 2 years to understand something is a winning strategy in life. You don't want to, you just run out of time if you do this all over the place.
Right, you don't want to be too distracted.
You can't go down every rabbit hole. You can choose one, maybe two. And so yeah, that's why it kind of takes a while. So maybe we should get some more people. We got this whole beautiful crowd of
Let's swap it out. Who's up next?
We want to be
I
Joe.
see
Jimmy, you guys want to
Brandon
jump in?
off the
Here. Let me these guys.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
All right, so I got something for both.
Oh my God. Oh, and
publishers.
look at this. It's signed. What a fucking man.
And there's a QR code to verify that it's digitally signed.
Holy shit.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
It's
welcome.
been a long time in the works.
Yeah, it took me like 15 months.
I remember the Jimmy before the cowboy hat. The Jimmy of 2013. When we'd be in the basement and break new books talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think I actually had like longer hair back then, and didn't have a goatee either. So I was
Was Jimmy a hippie at one time?
No, it's just Bitcoin. Bitcoin is part of it. It's like he's taking
maybe
on
more.
a
I don't know, something like that. Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
shaken into the sheriff of Bitcoin.
So what's it like to write? Just tell us this story of. I kind of got into the plot halfway through. Maybe you've been teaching your classes for 7 or 8 months, and I took one. It was excellent. You can see the week I took it on my GitHub. It went from white to green. I went from not writing code to writing code. So it had a big impact on me. But what was it like? When you started teaching, putting this class together, through the point where you have to really polish the hell out of it to get a top publisher.
Yeah, it took a long time. I guess the story starts around 2017, earlier 2017. I was working for Paxos, and I knew that I had taught this class at Paxos before, and I trained a bunch of the developers there. And I knew that this would do well because it took me a long time to learn a lot of this stuff and to get all of the resources. I knew a lot of people didn't know how to teach it very well, and it's like I know where to start. I know how to teach this stuff.
And many assume incredible technical competence already.
Yeah, and
Which is
it's tough, especially because the math isn't obvious to the technically competent people. And to the math competent people, the programming can be hard and stuff like that. So it actually took me a while to sort of get up the guts to try it, right? And Michael was actually part of my initial class, right? Like of 6 people here.
You were just telling me about the idea.
Yeah.
Kirby Lane.
Yeah, I was like, I think I can make money doing this. And Michael was part of that initial class. You know, we had 6 people here in Austin. It was at WeWork, and I was like teaching them. And Michael and Napoleon, who's here right now, they actually gave me really good feedback. They were like, you need to write your own library, and you need to use Jupyter Notebook. And that became at the center of you know, what I ended up doing. So I taught that for you know, the rest of 2017. Towards the end, I had a colleague from Paxos, Richard Kiss. He's the author of Python. And he approached me about writing a book together. Apparently another publisher had approached him, and he was asked to write a book. So he was like, hey, you know, I know you're teaching this class and you have a lot of material, why don't we write them together? So we talked to them, and they wanted like a blockchain book. I was like, I don't really want to do that. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Ken Liu, who wrote the forward. He's a sci-fi author. And I was just like, what should I do? You know much more about publishing. And he was basically like, dude, it's a really good topic. You should. The top publishers in the tech book arena are A-Press and O'Reilly. You should really approach them. I was like, well, I know O'Reilly, so let me see if I can go find somebody. I reached out to some people. Some people gave me some contacts. I ended up approaching O'Reilly, and Mike Lucatus, who happened to also be the intake editor for Andreas Antonopoulos, ended up really liking the idea. I ended up you know, getting a contract offer from them, and at that point, Richard Kiss was kind of like, you know, it's your show. I'm gonna go join this other startup, so I'm not really gonna have time. So he kind of dropped out, but that's how it started, and that was December of 2017. And so for most of 2018, I was just writing, and I actually knocked out, I think, like 6 or 7 chapters on the infamous cruise, because I didn't go to any of the things on the actual cruise, because it was all scammy.
Scammers are good for something.
Yeah. So I stayed in my room. I just ordered room service coffee and tea the whole time, and I ate 1 meal a day at the steakhouse that was on the cruise. So I would just like leave for the steakhouse.
Yes.
So this is the second major Bitcoin publication that's been powered by steak.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that was a huge inspiration. I still remember when Safety dropped the book into our Slack, and I was like, oh, all right, this sounds interesting. I couldn't stop reading it. So like by the end of, I think 24 hours later, I had written up all of these notes, and I was just like, I can't believe it, but I actually finished this book. Here's all my comments. I put it all in line in the Word document. And he's like, oh, wow, thank you. That's actually really useful. And I think that the big thing that I didn't understand until like way later in the book was the whole stock flow ratio.
You're right. I think one of his biggest contributions, because that's something that is not mentioned directly in a lot of Austrian literature. In fact, I actually don't totally know where he got the nomenclature. I think there's an economist named Fiquet. I remember. Otherwise, it's a concept that to any Austrian you quickly understand what it means, but it's not.
Yeah, and I was like, you need to explain this like right now. Like you need to like explain it straight away, because it's such a crucial concept in that entire book. And like seeing him do it and go through that process was actually a very big inspiration for me, and you know, and of course I sent him the book. But you know, that was you know, like just being able to do that, and like I don't know, writing a book is like kind of like trying to get a demon to go away, right? Like
He's just coming back.
Yeah, you just have to like you know, it's I think Orwell described it as a demon, right? Like like you just sort of have to write it until it's finished. And it did take a while, but I don't know. I like the way it worked out. And, you know.
So why do you think people should learn these skills?
Well, I mean, I see the Bitcoin developers as the big bottleneck right And that's always been my premise for doing these courses and writing this book.
So for a few years now, you've had this.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought this, right? Like, there's not that many core developers. I mean, it's expanding, thankfully, and including people that have taken the course, which I'm very happy about. But that's always going to be the biggest systematic risk, is that there aren't going to be enough people that understand this stuff. And it takes a long time to understand it, and it's a good thing. I think as more people get into it, they'll want to teach other people and things like that. And this is one of the things that I like the fact that you're teaching so many other people.
Yeah,
like getting people in that wouldn't work. Yeah, that wouldn't otherwise.
Quite literally, I refer quickly. A little highway set up right now.
Yeah, and you're obviously doing the podcast and trying to explain to people what Bitcoin is all about from a technical perspective. And it's important to get people into it at that level, right? Like where they really understand it. And
even on the application developer side, I think I'm not an expert, but I hear stories of times where they make, the application developers will make certain assumptions about, what is and isn't valid. And a lot of the times the assumptions are very misinformed. Brian Bishop, who just arrived, can give a lot of stories about this in exchanges and other places. And so I think even if you're going to be, at least at this stage, even if you're going to be an application developer, it does pay. You really ought to learn some of this stuff just so you don't make some catastrophic error.
And I think that's the real big difference, at least in my mind, between a Bitcoin developer and say an Ethereum.
There's a rapper that just flies by, rapping into a microphone.
During South by, rappers in random places.
Nobody following them.
Starts on rapping.
But the difference between Bitcoin developers, Ethereum developers, and just Bitcoin versus everything else. Bitcoin developers actually know about the protocol. A large number of Ethereum developers are essentially script kiddies that are playing with Solidity. That's really all.
You can see this when you know how to run a full
minute.
Yeah,
I can't.
You can see this when you look at some of their backgrounds too. Like you see people like what is his name, Christopher Allen. Like co-author of TLS.
Yeah.
You'll see. I think when you look at some of the things Greg Maxwell did before. You look at some of the Bitcoin core developers, and they have just quite a.
They have a security development background.
They have a really impressive background, and you look at some of these Ethereum developers or something.
I was in marketing, and I decided to be a Solidity developer because I can copy and paste.
Not just the Solidity, but like the people like leading the hard forks and stuff. It's like there's a different class of people.
And that's the big difference. And
so I take it like programming Ethereum is not coming out anytime soon.
No. I mean, I'll leave that to the people that want to make money on that. I'm fine not making money off of that.
How did you manage to get the honey badger?
Oh, that took a lot of begging. So I initially asked for it as part of the contract negotiations, and they were like, we can't do that because there's a whole cover team and they decide on the animal, but you can request it. So I told my intake editor, can I please get the honey badger? And he's like, okay, you're like the fourth author to ask for the honey badger. What the hell is up with the honey badger? So I showed him the honey badger don't care video. And he's like, oh, okay. And I was like, and I tried to make the argument after that.
So he wasn't aware of how it related to Bitcoin at all?
No.
So by just seeing the original video, he understood?
No. Well, so I showed him the original video as a way to explain why everybody else wanted it. And then I showed him the billboard and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, so this is related to Bitcoin. Can I possibly get it? And then all of a sudden, like in April sometime, they just sent me an email saying, hey, we got the honey badger. Here's your cover. I was like, this is what I wanted the whole time.
Yeah, congratulations on that. That's just as impressive as the.
I think the cover by itself will sell just because of the honey badger.
For other readers of other O'Reilly texts on Bitcoin, how would you say this differs from Mastering Bitcoin? And should people read both?
Yeah, absolutely. I see Andreas's book as more, I guess, focused on like a lot of the features.
It's like a reference.
Yeah, it's more referencing. Mine is specifically designed to get you to learn it from scratch, right? Like I go through the math.
This is really nice if you have either a math or a programming background.
Yeah.
Like sometimes for me, it's oftentimes easier to understand a technical concept if I actually implement it than if I read a Wikipedia article. I just don't really understand.
Yeah, and this is what I found in my classes is that when you force people to actually code this stuff, it sticks with them better and they understand it just, at a much deeper level.
Yeah, and you can actually, work it a little bit. It's like when you're done with the exercises, you kind of get it. But then you poke it for a little while when you get home.
And change things and see what happens.
The playground is really where you, where you lock it in.
Yeah. And that's the idea. And hopefully I get to write more books. I would love to do like a programming wallet book and a programming lightning book. Those would probably be my next book. That's in that order. But I need to work on the material. I think I'm working on the programming wallet material as a seminar first, and then I would get into that. And I think O'Reilly is open to doing stuff like that. And there's translations in the works and all that. So I'm really.
I think it might even surprise people, like how big of a book that might end up being.
Yeah.
Both all of that goes into that. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I wanted to do programming lightning first, but then I realized it's just it's too big a topic, and you have to cover stuff like neutrino and how the network communication
so much faster. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on Twitter just today about whether neutrino is a good idea.
Yeah, and
really respectful people on both sides arguing persuasively.
And still waiting for Pierre to get here so he can make a fervent case for neutrino.
I like neutrino.
I guess now 70 minutes late.
Sorry to get. They operate on French time. Yeah,
all those carbs, man. All those carbs.
Yeah.
They stop for a baguette and some cheese. Wine.
Espresso. It's terrible.
We should get some more people through here.
So I
got a whole room with
we got a lot of people over, so I think I will cede my seat. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna cede too. We just gotta create a vacuum here.
Hey, my turn of Easter. It's a pleasure having you. We haven't had you on the Noted podcast. I don't know why. We need to have you on for a full interview soon. It's great to have you in Texas.
Yeah.
And I actually, the first time I met you was in Austin, Texas, in 2013. When you would come to Person Mining, sat by one of the old Bitcoin meetups.
Was it at the Bitcoin conference?
No, this was at the, it was just the Austin Bitcoin meetup. You were just with your company and everything. That was a very important thing. We haven't, the man is right. I don't want to interrupt. So that meetup was when we had a discussion about how great it would be if, since there's the Mises Institute for Austrian Economics, if only there's the Nakamoto Institute for crypto anarchy. And so that's where the idea for SNI had originated. So,
The genesis.
Yes. So anyway, but you are.
Congratulations, like so much great work that you've done.
Appreciate
just
it.
to gather all the resources. It's just, it's a gold mine.
Yeah, I get messages from people all the time. I always I'm I'm honored to have been able to help people discover all of this literature. It's like every round of like new Bitcoin adoption I get, I see a new round of people finding this rabbit hole. I've already pre-dug everything for them to just hop right in.
And you've probably enabled new information to be available online, like people that entrusted you with their private emails and things like that.
Yeah, I haven't put up private emails. There's always been some ethical considerations around that I can do, but there's all the public stuff. But it's also in like one place with an interface that makes it easy to traverse everything.
Maybe I misremember. I thought you had some Hal Finney emails.
That was the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. It was when Nathaniel Popper had done some research on Hal Finney for his book. By the way, you've started a new hedge fund. Would you like to talk a little bit about what you're working on with that?
Yeah, I can't talk details in terms of how it works, but in terms of what the idea behind it is really to help establish Bitcoin as a denominator, as a benchmark
And I think that's important, and I think that's also where we're heading long term. If you look at funds in the space, the question is always like, how do you measure your performance? What is your benchmark? And up until fairly recently, it was understood like, well, it's the dollar, right? We're just gonna charge fees based on our dollar profits.
Yeah. In fact, anti-maximalists often make fun of maximalists as, oh, you're still looking at the dollar price.
Right.
So to some extent, it sounds a little more maximalistic if we're looking at Bitcoin.
We also get made fun of when we say one BTC equals one BTC.
Yeah, there's no winning with this,
Right.
Except in the actual marketplace. In
Yeah,
which,
exactly.
we do win.
That's undeniable. Yeah.
But also in terms of like, I mean, right now what you're seeing more is kind of like indices, like as a benchmark, it's like the top 10 or something like that.
Shitcoin basket.
I mean, but that leads to a lot of questions. Is like, what do you include in that basket, and based on what is that put together? Like they put together cryptocurrencies with things that look a lot more like securities. Like, why does that even fit together? And I think it's kind of a stretch to make the analogy with the Nasdaq, because cryptocurrencies are not equities. So yeah, I think that having more products out there that really use Bitcoin as a benchmark, I think is important, because long term, obviously, what we want to go towards is a unit of account and things like that. And I think it's also just in line with the trend. We were yesterday at the dinner. There was somebody who's doing research in Venezuela and talking about stable coins, whether there's any interest in that there,
Right.
and pointing out that there's zero interest, because all that matters to those people is liquidity. Like, they want access fast.
That was
They don't care so much about the price volatility.
That was the striking part of the
Yeah,
conversation,
right.
Because this is something that we've been arguing for years now about liquidity. But any person who studies economics, God bless their souls, thinks that you need a stable coin. And so to hear that people who are truly in need of a real currency now because their lives depend on it, all they care about is liquidity. It's a real it's very damning to the status quo of economic thought.
Right.
Too bad that petro cryptocurrency didn't.
It was promising, just didn't work out.
I had emailed them when they announced that they were interested in doing it. I said, hey, I might be able to help out and help you develop this and make sure that it's a solid thing. And they never got back to me.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, we didn't have a chance to introduce you yet. So Brian Bishop, I don't think we've had you on the podcast yet either. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for being dragged over here to talk to us.
Especially during South by.
Yeah. So what are you up to in the Bitcoin world now?
Well, mainly I've been focusing on code review for Bitcoin Core pull requests and improvement proposals, but also one of my other responsibilities is that I moderate the Bitcoin Dev mailing list, which is actually been having some issues lately. It's really a crazy story, because the Linux Foundation is currently hosting the mailing list, and they have decided that they are no longer interested in using email, like the email protocol. So they're dropping support of that, and as a result, it was actually like offline for like the past half month or something. So we're finding a new home for that.
What is it that they want to replace it with?
Well, I mean, they have some deals with carrier. No, they have some deals with third-party providers that they're offering, but they just don't want it supported anymore. They don't want to have to hire a sysadmin or anything like that anymore. So anyway, time to move on to another solution, and so that'll be upcoming, and that hasn't been completely finalized yet, but it's in progress.
Can we get into the controversy that's been going on that I feel like I maybe instigated? It was Bit 157.
We've already brought this up, so we were waiting.
Oh, you already have?
No, we were waiting
Oh,
to get here so that you could go on about
Yeah, I'm riled up about it, and I'm sure Jimmy has some thoughts about neutrino as well. But I think there were several arguments, but the argument that I find most plausible is that Bitcoin Core, the software project, should not be a batteries included, everything in the kitchen sink type project, because we want to focus it on the consensus critical code, and then just have minimal amount of services around it in that code.
Maybe, but if that was true, then why is there a wallet? So
well, they're currently in the process of separating that wallet out, and then eventually maybe it would be in a different repository in a different project. So that's kind of like a historical accident.
one of the hardest problems in Bitcoin Core's development history is that everything was basically spaghetti together. It's spaghetti communication. Yeah, main. Yeah, just put it in main. That's fine. It should work. And so the problem though is that when you try to separate this, first of all, I mean, you could try to like, maybe you're going to make a unilateral decision or something, but that doesn't really work because there are like 400 other pull requests that all modify main as well. Now, the situation with main has actually been greatly improved over the past few years, but it's still, I would say, one of the biggest problems. In fact, a consulting client of mine has a product that is derived from Bitcoin Core. It's a fork of Bitcoin Core, and it's a non-competitive product. But one of the problems of it is that maintaining this product means that they have to wait for upstream Bitcoin Core to be able to change something. And so then they have to rebase all the time. So it actually gets really hairy, especially if you're working like not just on Bitcoin Core, but something derived from Bitcoin.
I imagine too, like actually like being able to refactor things to get stuff out of the main CVP is also like that can be potentially threatening to the decentralized development process.
That's true.
As well, because like if Vladimir was just like, okay, we're going to do this, and he just did something that could disrupt the community a lot.
So there was an email posted to the mailing list, and as a moderator, I wasn't sure if this one should go through because it seemed kind of like a troll. And it was like, why not break up the code base into separate modules? And like, I'm like, is this a troll or not? And I figured it was like innocent enough that maybe that's okay. And I mean, obviously the answer is that this stuff is hard and it takes time. I mean, so,
right. Yeah.
over time, it'll
Lit consensus has been spoken of for so long.
Absolutely.
It's slowly being pieced together as it can be.
Yeah.
But if only we can just match.
So the idea of lit consensus, if viewers might not know, is that we want a single piece of code that controls consensus critical rules and parameters. And then the idea is that over time, this would be formally verified in like a mathematically rigorous way to prove that it does what we think it does. Because right now we're not really sure. And we just say, okay, just run the same code, and we hope that it works the same way.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't, it's really broken.
Pray to Satoshi with each block with everything verified.
Yeah, that should be fun. You only live once.
So there the argument is, let's not add another feature to Bitcoin Core because we want to be taking features out of it. At the same time, just as a practical matter, it is easier to just have everything in one binary that then gets released, and you can activate things or turn things on or off depending on the user's preferences. But there's an open pull request to add Bitcoin 57 and filters, and basically what this is that currently the current client technology is not as good on privacy as it otherwise could be, and this new technology called, unfortunately, its name collides with the name of the hacking team company called Neutrino, which is completely unrelated, and they're evil. But whether the light client Neutrino is evil or not, there's different perspectives on that.
So Coinbase has only adopted one of them.
Yeah. Do you know if the pull request makes it enabled by default? Or
no. Well, first of all, it is the 2 of 3 pull requests. The third will have it disabled by default.
So then it's kitchen sink, but you have to turn on the faucet.
Right, exactly. And the argument for having it off by default is that you don't want to have people consuming your resources, in this case your bandwidth, because as a full node, this would dramatically increase the amount of stress on your bandwidth. If you have a bunch of mobile Lightning wallets that are using this Neutrino technology to connect to your node and take data from it. But my view, because I put together this piece of software called the Node Launcher that combines having Bitcoin Core and LND on the same desktop or laptop computer. And what I want is to use Neutrino while Bitcoin Core is syncing. So if the first time you install this software, Bitcoin Core might take between like 6 hours to 2 weeks to sync, which means that currently you cannot use Lightning while it is syncing. So in practice, what ends up happening is someone opens up the Node Launcher and then they realize they're going to have to wait a very long time. So they go on a custodial Lightning wallet solution, and there they are onboarded instantly.
Has this been like an actual issue here today? So this isn't you merely speculating about what you think that users are doing. This is empirically users coming to you and saying, I really wanted to get on Lightning, but I had to wait a week because I had very slow internet or something. I'm going to use Blue Wallet. Yeah.
This problem also existed even before Lightning with Bitcoin wallets, but there the problem was a little different because as soon as you open a Bitcoin wallet, you can get a receive address and receive payments. You can't verify that yet, but you can still get that address immediately. But here with Lightning, though, you need to be able to run the Lightning protocol and do a commitment and everything before you even be able to do that. So,
what makes, do we have a question from the audience?
What makes Neutrino different from Blue filters?
So it's about who is creating the filter, right? Whether it's the client or the server. So with Neutrino, the server creates a filter for each block and then sends the filter to each client. And then the client cryptographically can query the filter and see if they have relevant transactions in that filter. And if they do, then they go and retrieve the whole 1 megabyte block, and then they have all the transaction data there. So that offers pretty good privacy because now it's like one of several thousand transactions in that block. The old version of SPV was you provide a filter to the server, and then the server lets you know if there's a match, and that's worse for privacy.
I have a whole presentation.
Oh yeah, Jimmy's the expert on this.
Can we start eating actually?
Yeah,
Will that be okay?
let's start eating.
Good question. Good question.
Yeah, should we bring Michael Clay and just pick our kids? You guys keep going.
Yeah, I mean, should we take some audience questions?
Yeah, let's get some
Does anyone have questions for any of us?
Yeah, Brian, tell us about your project with gene.
Isn't it amazing?
Gene editing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't it amazing? Nobody's asking about block size anymore. Well, that's like gone.
This sounds gonna drown out.
Yeah, we're stopping.
yeah, we're gonna go. Yeah. Oh, thank you guys for
Hey, sorry about yesterday. I just,
Oh, you probably should have just said that I worked.